Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem, a postmortem of my Blitz game number 337. My opponent played e4 here, and I responded with c5, Sicilian defense, knight f3, and e6, hoping to get into a Sicilian. And now my opponent played the move e5, and already we're out of the opening book, so there were no moves in my opening book, no games in my opening book with this move ever played. It's an interesting move, but you can see right away it allows black to equalize with a move like knight c6, just a normal developing move. It's a little bit premature to be pushing this pawn forward. It's kind of run ahead of its support. And the idea with knight c6, which I played, is to control this square so that he can't play d4 and support that pawn there. So this pawn is going to remain a weakness, and the pawn on e5, and I can just organize my forces to attack it. So that's why it's just a bit premature to be pushing on like that. Now he played c3 here, a logical move trying to build up this defense, defending the pawn with the move d4. And right away I could play d6, and I probably should. I don't play this move till several moves later, but d6 right here is the best way to play. Just immediately going after these advanced pawns in the center. You don't want to allow them to sit around and cause trouble and maybe become a problem later. So. But I didn't play that way. I played knight e7. He played d4. We get this exchange. And then, once again, pawn to d6 should be played here. If he takes, I can take back with the queen. I don't have to worry that I've blocked my bishop. But I played knight g6 here, and he goes knight c3. And now he's really threatening to hold on to this pawn, so I've kind of messed up, honestly. You gotta go after that pawn right away when it's at its weakest. So I play d6 now, and we get into a game where actually white has a typical kind of opening advantage. So I threw away my chances in that opening. But the game still goes on. So bishop to g5. Sorry, cancel that. Bishop to g5. Hitting my queen. I just block with the bishop. I was a little bit worried about him taking advantage of that pin, but I realized I could take back with the queen, so it's okay. So we get this exchange. And now knight b5. So this move is another premature advance. He's moving a piece twice without having developed all his other pieces, and there's no big threat to justify that. So now I can just take the e-pawn. So he's given me back the advantage with this, and in fact I'm winning a pawn here. I take it with the knight. The engine has a very interesting suggestion, which is to throw in the move queen b4 check, or even to castle. I guess the point is this pawn is not going anywhere. He has no easy way to support it. The knight is blocking the f-pawn, so the f-pawn can't come forward to support it, so it's got to be supported with the pieces. And so that leaves just the knight and the queen, the only pieces around that can support it on a dark square. And so if he plays the queen to defend it, I can attack it with my queen. I guess queen to c5 there would attack the pawn and round it up. So I don't have to be in a hurry to round it up, and I could castle or play queen b4. Anyway, I just took it right away with the knight on g3. And now he can play knight d6 check. So maybe I've let him get some compensation for the pawn by pushing my king around. So once again, not the most accurate play. But after this exchange, I'm doing okay. Bishop to b5 he played here. And now looks like I can play bishop d7 right away. That's kind of interesting. I decided to kick his bishop first. Bishop d7 leaves this pawn hanging. But I guess he can't really take it because he's got to deal with the threat to his bishop. So he takes. I take. It's interesting. He has me taking with a knight, and still I guess it's no good to take the pawn. Oh, because of queen b4 check. That's a nice tactic. Queen to b4 check forks the knight there and the king. So that pawn is safe. So anyway, yeah, I was a little bit overly worried about the pawn, but I push his bishop back. I'm still going to keep some advantage with this sequence because he allows me another tempo. I move the b pawn. Let's back up. I had a better move there. Bishop d7. Once again, going after his bishop. is probably a better way to play. What's so good about this? How about if he just retreats? Then bishop to c6. Wow, look at these numbers. I guess there's multiple threats here. I'm threatening to take a pawn here. I'm threatening to bring a rook here and pin the knight and win it. So I guess he can't deal with all the threats. That's interesting. So a little more restrained way to, a more challenging way to play was bishop d7. So I kicked the bishop here with b5. He dropped back to c2. And now I go bishop d7. And with my pawn on b5, I no longer have these ideas of queen b4 check and winning something on b7. Pawn's in the way. But it did give me some space for my pieces, I guess, over here. So slight edge for black after all this. And I am up a pawn too, but not a huge edge. So I guess because of my king position, I'm not quite as good as I should be. Rook to d8 I played here, trying to chase his knight away. Knight goes to e4. Cancel that. Knight went to e4. f6, making a little space for my king so I can get up and connect my rooks. He brings his queen out to h5. And what's the best way to deal with this? I ended up playing g6 here, but I wasn't really sure. I could just ignore it and go bishop to e8 chases it away with the bishop. Bishop to c6 hits the knight. Okay, so g6 is a bit of a weakening move, but looks like this all works out okay anyway. Queen to h4, king g7. So he might have been better off delivering the check. I thought after queen h6 check I would interpose with my queen. But it's one of these problems where if I go here, my queen is pinned, so he can he just take here? No, he can't take there because his queen is hanging. But queen f4 allows him to get a threat on this guy. Okay. Interesting. So it just allows him to organize his pieces a little better, that maneuver with queen h6 to h4. And I put my king up on g7. So now I've got the full pawn advantage by now. A few imprecise moves, and the extra material tells the tale. So he's still trying to arrange his forces for an attack on my king. He should probably try and bring a rook in at this point. So I get my rook out. Plays knight to g5. Taking advantage of this little tactical trick. If I grab his knight, his queen can take my knight. So I play knight c4, getting away from that, and he's got to move his knight back to f3. So I gradually am unwinding here, e5, grabbing a little more space. Rook a to e1, so he's getting his other pieces into the attack. A good plan. I go queen c5 here. Let's see. I should, at this point, just take on b2. And I noticed that the pawn was hanging. I just wasn't sure it was helping me to grab another pawn. But the engine is saying, yeah, that's what you should do. Go ahead and take that pawn. And failing that, play a move like rook c8 or queen to b4. I thought about queen b4. Yeah, that's an interesting way to play too. Because if the queen takes on b2, it hits the bishop. But after queen b4, he just plays b3. Then knight to d6. Knight back. Okay, anyway, I tried the queen c5 maneuver, still keeping an advantage. Knight to h4, going after this g6 square. And now knight to d2. Oh, I can win the exchange with knight d2, and I guess I don't have to be too worried about this attack on g6. Let's check this out. Knight d2. Suppose he just takes on g6. The engine is recommending bishop takes. So he's got 3 pieces and I only have 2 defenders, so he can win something here. So, knight takes f1. This is what I missed. Hits the queen, so this bishop is not going to get a move with tempo. Normally this is kind of set up as very dangerous, because if I take back, the queen comes in here with check, and pretty scary. So he plays rook takes f1, and now I have some time to defend. Rook to g8. And now the bishop can move with tempo, but I guess it doesn't have any great squares to go to. Bishop c2. Bishop e4 check. Centralizing. And the king just walks away from the check, and I've got an exchange up. He's got a pawn back, but I've won the exchange in that sequence. So interesting way to play. So knight d2 in that situation. I played g5 to try and shut down stuff on this on the g file, but it allows him to penetrate here with his knight to f5 to get this exchange in. And I thought this is generally favoring me, and it does keep an advantage to black, getting rid of his attacking pieces, so the attack seems to be petering out. But and now I bring my knight back to chase his bishop away. Once again, the engine was recommending just grabbing another pawn. But this still should be winning for me with good play. He drops his bishop back to b1, and I push on with e4. Kind of wanted to shut down this diagonal. It wasn't just about grabbing space. It was also trying to remove some of his piece play. He played rook to c1, hitting my queen. Go over here to e5. I'm happy to see a queen trade because I think I'll just win with my extra material as long as I don't drop the advanced e-pawn. He plays the rook c7 check, and here I make the move that loses the game. So you can see, if you look at the chess engine, there's a number of ways to defend. Probably knight f7 blocking the check is the best. And then the game continues from here. I have a slight edge. I guess I've allowed my opponent to get some activity with his pieces once again, so he has compensation for the pawn. Or I could just move the king out of check. But I blocked with the rook instead, and this is just a blunder. And the engine spots it immediately, and so did my opponent. He can just take my queen. So if we back up a second, can you spot these blunders? Well, you have to remember that the queen is under attack, and also if you try to block this way, whatever piece you're blocking with is going to be pinned, and so that's the problem. The rook here is just subject to a pin, so it's no longer defending the queen, and so he can take off the queen, and when I take back, the queen was the only piece that was defending the rook. So there's a curious case of dependencies here. I need the queen to defend the rook. I need the pawn to defend the queen, but if the queen disappears with tempo, the rook is hanging here. And the rook can't help defend the queen here because the rook is pinned. So nice little tactic that my opponent spotted. So after queen e5, I just resigned here. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. It shows the importance of staying alert at all times, even when you've been winning most of the game and your opponent has been playing less than accurate moves. He can still spot those tactics if you put them on the board for him to find them. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.